Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation following. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them the wisdom to know and the courage to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Roll call, please.
Goodar.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Lepore.
Here.
Mistrovich.
Here.
Ricks.
Here.
Schultz.
Here.
Yar.
Here.
Right after I shut my phone off. Forget all about that. Won't let it happen again. Okay. Approval of minutes for the regular meeting of September 3rd would be in order.
So moved.
Support. Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We move on to audience comments on any non-agenda items. If anybody would like to address the city council, we ask that you simply state your name and your address to the clerk for the record. Would anybody like to make a comment to the city council at this time? We will move on. Adoption of agenda. Mr. City Manager, any changes?
No changes.
City Council, any changes? Motion to accept the agenda as presented would be in order.
So moved. Support.
Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion on that? Being not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. We also need a motion for the consent agenda this evening.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. There's no discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? It does pass. We move on to items for consideration this evening, which we have 7. The first one is consideration of the fiscal year 2012-13 city audit presentation. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to receive a presentation from the city auditors, Plant Moran, for the fiscal year 2012-13 audit. The auditor's presentation to the city council will express that in spite of the financial challenges faced by the communities, the city is maintaining a solid financial position. Jamie Christian, Keith Szymanski, and Dave Harrington are here to present the audit and explain their findings in more detail.
Good evening. Welcome. Glad to be here. As mentioned, Dave Harrington. I'm here with Jamie and Keith, and we're here to present the audit results for June 30th, 2013. And actually, being September 16th, this is my first June 30th audit presentation, which is a real compliment to the city. 2.5 months after is very uncommon. Usually it's around Thanksgiving, so well done. And even more important, and I get to do this, I get to do the results part, and they'll go into some financial highlights, is your audit opinion, which is what you hire us to do is give an opinion on the accuracy of these numbers. And again, this year you got an unqualified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get from your auditors. And so that is what you're looking for, and you should be pleased with that. And we were able to work very well with Marilyn and the team and to get through this audit. What we thought we'd like to do, as we've done in the past, is Keith and Jamie will go through this slide presentation of a financial summary, and then during the presentation, if you'd like to ask any questions, feel free to ask, and then at the end, of course, we'll be open to any questions on the large report, which is around 43 pages, the slides, or our management letter, which is also a separate report. So with that, I'll turn it over.
I'm going to start with slide 1 of the slide presentation. The first 3 slides relate only to the city's general fund, where the majority of the activity is accounted for. Slide number 1 accounts for general fund revenues over the last 5 years. And of course, like all local units of government in the state of Michigan, you can see the largest revenue source is represented by the red bar, property taxes. It's been subject to declines in taxable values for the last 5 years. In fact, in just the last 5 years, the property tax revenues have decreased over $400,000 for the city of Richmond. In 2013, you can see there was a slight increase over 2012. That was largely, or in fact entirely due to the sharing agreement with the TIFA, which led to a $186,000 increase. Taxable value, in fact, decreased during the year. Without the revenue sharing, property taxes would have been $70,000 lower than last year. So the city was still dealing with declining taxable value in 2013. Other major change from last year, locally raised revenues decreased approximately $200,000. That relates to the termination of the rent from the state police at the police station. However, moving on to slide number 2, expenses over the last 5 years. You can see the sharp decrease in these lines as well over the last 5 years. This is a key indication that council has been reactive to the declining property tax revenues as well as the other revenues, and has acted accordingly to balance the budget and maintain good fiscal stability within the city's general fund. In fact, from 2009 to 2013, you can see that each category of expenditure shown here is lower than it was 5 years ago. The largest piece is public safety. That also decreased approximately $200,000 from last year, largely due to the fact that last year there were purchases of police vehicles, where in 2013 there were no capital purchases. And if you were to put slides 1 and 2 together, you'd see that the general fund brought in $3,669,000 of revenue, while spending $3,480,000 of revenue, which leads to a $189,000 increase in fund balance. You can see that on slide number 3, which Jamie will explain to you.
Thanks, Keith. All right, I'm going to take you through slide number 3 and 4. Slide 3 details the trend analysis of the general fund balance for the past 5 years, so 2009 to 2013. It also includes the next year's projected fund balance. As you can see, the fund balance has been pretty volatile the past 3 years, and the current year fund balance of $1,185,000 is more than it was in 2009. So the fund balance is increasing. The fund balance is about 34% of your expenditures, which is a very healthy fund balance position to have, and especially with the decrease in property tax revenue that Keith spoke to. The current year fund balance is all unrestricted money, so the city can choose to spend that any way they deem necessary. And for next year's projected ending fund balance of $1,129,000, the city is expected to use about $56,000 in fund balance next year. And then if we move on to slide number 4, this details the 5-year trend analysis of the city's water and sewer funds, including the operating income and loss and the working capital. The working capital is current assets less current liabilities, and it is available to spend on current operations. Both funds have remained steady and have a healthy position and a strong fund, cash balance. The operating income and loss line does include current year depreciation expense of your capital assets, so that's the reason why there are negative numbers in there. And the city has done a good job of monitoring their water and sewer rates. It appears they're not overcharging the residents, and they're still maintaining a good fund balance. They're not sacrificing that fund balance, so continue to monitor the water and sewer rates during your annual budgeting process. And that's it for the financial highlights, and bring back the team for any questions.
One thing I wanted to point out, if you flip real quick to page 3, this is I'm going to preempt a question that almost every community asks. And I say, is that a good amount of fund balance? What does that mean? And the quick answer, Jamie mentioned it's 30-some% of the 2014 expenditures, but you have to look way beyond a percentage. You have to look at the absolute number. And so if you look over 5 years, your number's a little higher than it was 5 years ago, which is great in this economic situation. But it's $1 million, which we all know how expensive things are when things break down. So it's reasonable to maintain a stronger percentage for a smaller community. So if you're at 34% and your budget's $100 million, well, that's a lot more money. When your budget's at the number you're at, 34%, 33% is excellent, and especially considering how property tax revenues have plummeted the last 5 years for the community. But it's not as if you can go off and just do whatever projects you'd like, because just to put up a simple building costs a lot of money. And so I think you've done the right things. You've been very actually proactive in addressing what was coming and maintaining a strong, stable position. But certainly the economy hasn't changed yet in governmental finance where you can't you can't do, you have to continue doing what you're doing, which is keeping your eye on every expense. So wanted to point that out because percentages sometimes can be very misleading if you just look at it without looking at the absolute numbers. So with that, I'll open up to any questions on the audit presentation and or management letter.
Questions, City Council? One of the things you brought up was that our property value was still declining. Is that normal in Macomb County right now?
It is. It is. So what we have seen is in January of 13 was the first time we've seen some communities with upticks, and it was almost all north of M59. But the January, this year's, including this year's revenue, would have been the previous year's assessment because there's that lag. So we're seeing the very first increase in some properties in the January of 13, and with any hope we'll start seeing some in January of 14. Positive trend in that it's not going down anymore. Again, north of Hall Road. It's very random south of Hall Road. But so I would anticipate we've hit bottom, barring any other economic unforeseen situation. But it's, with that was but it can't go up at the pace it went down.
Right.
So we're capped by the lesser of inflation, or 5%, and inflation is being monitored or kept pretty low with our interest rate scenario and the Fed. So if you're looking at 2 or 3% inflation rate, the most can go up is 2 or 3%. So to get back to where you were 6 years ago, it'll take about 20 years.
Yeah. We've heard that before.
Yeah.
But we, like you said, I think you pointed it out in our audit, we've made the adjustments
Yes.
without too much pain. We're still maintaining our library and our parks and recreation, which a lot of other communities have had to
Abandoned.
abandon, yeah.
That's correct. No, I think you've balanced it well. It hasn't gone without some, choices. But to maintain a stable financial position, everybody's gone through that. And so the numbers reflect pretty sound fiscal decisions.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move to receive and file the City of Richmond June 30th, 2013 financial report with supplemental information from Plant and Moran LLP.
Support. It's been made and supported. Is there any discussion?
I do have a comment. On this packet that we were given, there are some issues in here that I would like possibly addressed at our roundtable in October. If we could put that on there.
Certainly can.
Since it's an in-depth document, I would want to go over it in detail today. But stuff that we need to discuss amongst ourselves to have solutions to some of the issues that were just addressed. Though minor, I think being as proactive as we always are, I think can stay on top of it. And just again, thank you to Marilyn and John who keep us chugging along, and you guys just do a fantastic job. This is definitely a reflection of you guys, and thank you guys for doing a great job and being very clear and concise and the things that we do great and the things that we need to improve. So I appreciate it.
Anything else?
Yes. I concur with Councilor Green, and just that we talk about some of those issues that staff, and knows that we struggle with the segregation of duties issue, being a smaller community, and especially as we've had to lay off some staff this year, which was painful, which continues to make segregation of duties difficult. But I see that from the comments that we are moving forward with that, continuing, and so I'm glad to see that. I think we still further discussion needs to be had. I do appreciate the comments that were in here. We're in the letter saying state shared revenue experienced a steady decline since 2001 as the state used it to balance its own budget. I appreciate that it's in there. There's a representative from Oakland County who made the comment on Channel 4 saying the problem with local government is they spend $11 when they get $9. That was his belief. I like to refer back to this and say, no, we're doing our part and we help balance your budget. For example, $188,000 is lost in revenue sharing, another $200,000 when they close the state police post. So I do go back to that, say even our auditors say that we're helping to balance your budget. Maybe you should stop, trying to put this on local government. I'm glad to see that we have a 34% fund balance. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen next year with the personal property tax. Even the replacement is going to be about 80%. So unfortunately, our state government's it's going to be good for business, but it's going to be bad for local government funding. So I'm glad that we're going in with some savings because it's going to be a difficult year figuring out what we're going to do with that. So that's overall, I feel positive that we spread the pain amongst all the departments, and no particular department was hit worse than others. We try to keep it fair and ask everyone to step up, and I think all our departments and our staff did that to try to get us through this time.
Any other comments? Any audience participation on this item? Back to the table. Again, Marilyn, and thank you very much. John, nice job. Your staff did a great job again. That's pretty usual. We appreciate all the time you guys put into this. And the positive comments from Platte Moran on our audit this year. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 2 is consideration of adopting resolution number 2013-13 deficit elimination plan. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider approving Resolution 2013-13, a resolution establishing a deficit reduction plan for the fire fund. In 2009, the City Council and Tifa entered into a loan agreement between Tifa and the fire fund for the purchase of a new engine. According to law, even though we have an agreement and the means to pay back that loan from Tifa, the state still views that as a deficit in the fire fund, and therefore we have to have a deficit elimination plan, even though we loaned ourselves the money. So.
Thank God we've got a plan again this year.
Yes, we have a plan.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt Resolution 2013-13, a resolution establishing a deficit reduction plan for the fire fund and attached deficit reduction plan.
Support. Motion been made and supported. Is there any discussion on this item? I think the city manager made it very clear. We have the money. Evidently, new rules that were popped in. Was that last year?
Last year is when they changed it where we have to adopt this prior to the auditors filing this with the state. We used to do it after, now we do it before. And
the fact of the matter is that we've loaned one department money from another fund, which was a great idea to do in the first place. We're paying ourselves back. Glad they're on top of all this stuff. Okay. Any other discussion on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
I'd say that it's rather frustrating for us to keep doing this when the state right now keeps pushing us to be creative, and that's exactly, I think we have solid money management. Our staff comes up with great concepts to maximize the use of our resources, and it's almost like the state is discouraging us from being creative. But on the other hand, they'll say, you need to be more creative at local government to serve your residents, which is exactly what we've been doing. So it's very disappointing. I'll tell you some of the comments that I get when I talk to some of the government folk in Lansing. It almost as if they don't think we know what we're doing. And when I look at this, I think this was a great way to help the fire department get a fire truck and use our resources to the best. And this is one of the things I highlight when I talk to them about. We do come up with creative ways to use our resources to the best, to be reasonable about our tax dollars. You got to stop treating us like we don't know what we're doing.
Anything else? Any audience comments on this item? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 3, consideration of bid award winter maintenance for the police post. Mr. City Manager.
bid requests were sent out to 6 companies, and we received proposals from 3. Comparative bid tabulation is provided along with an aerial map showing the work area over at the police post. We discussed this previously at a budget roundtable meeting.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to award the police post-winter maintenance contract to Dosins with the expenses charged to the appropriate line item, building matrons contract, buildings and grounds police post, general fund.
Support.
Been made and supported. Is there any discussion? We have a low bidder. We have done work for us in the past. We've been happy with the work.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Any audience comments? Being not, back to the table. In favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Item number 4 is consideration of appointment to the Economic Development Corporation. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider making an appointment to the EDC. We have recently received Brian Beafor's application expressing his interest on being reappointed to this board.
And I would ask that you would reappoint Brian to that board. He's done a nice job for us. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Brian Byfor to the Economic Development Corporation for a 6-year term with an expiration date of 7/1/2019.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Can you believe we're talking 2019?
I know.
That doesn't sound right. So I appreciate Brian re-upping again. Jamie, you've worked with Brian
Yes,
on the
and
EDC. He's done a good job.
He has done an excellent job, and it is amazing that the 6 years have gone by so fast in serving with him, and I really appreciate that he is submitting his application again. He is a great asset to the EDC and helps complete the whole team.
Very good. Any audience comments on this item? Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. Item number 5 is consideration of request to close M19 to conduct the annual homecoming parade for the Richmond High School. Mr. City Manager.
Council is scheduled to consider the request we received from the Richmond High School for permission to conduct their annual homecoming parade. This year, the homecoming parade is scheduled for Friday, October 4th, beginning at 5 p.m. The parade will line up on Festival Drive, continue on Washington Street to Main Street, and travel south to Division, where it'll turn right and go to the high school.
And we do close two-way traffic now, right?
I thought it was only the southbound, but we kind of take up the northbound lane.
I'll check on that.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request from the Richmond High School to conduct the annual homecoming parade and direct the city clerk to apply for MDOT for permission to close M19 from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Friday, October 4th, 2013, to conduct the annual homecoming parade.
Support.
It's been made and supported. Is there any discussion?
I'll check with the police on how we've handled it in the past. I haven't been up there myself, so.
It seems to me we've been closing it both ways now.
Yes, I believe so,
I
too.
think there was a few years ago we didn't, and the council wanted to close both ways. It's a short enough distance, it really shouldn't hurt our traffic that bad. It's a short amount of time also that they're actually on Main Street. But I think for safety's sake, we should close both ways.
Agreed.
I think we have consensus from the council. Okay, any other discussion? Any audience comments on this? Back to the table? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. Item number 6 is consideration of scheduling the quarterly roundtable. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider scheduling its quarterly roundtable meeting. I did email out to everyone the October calendar page, and everyone did get back with me. I penciled in everyone's initials, and copy of this is in front of you. It left us with Tuesday, October 15th, at a meeting that, due to some, I think there's 2 council members with kind of late afternoon appointments, we'd need to go at 6:30 on that day.
Okay, is there a motion?
I move to schedule the special quarterly roundtable meeting of the City Council for October 15th, 2013 at City Hall beginning at 6:30 p.m.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Busy month for everybody, it seems. Any audience comments on this item? This is our quarterly roundtable meeting. Public is certainly invited. It's held right here at 6:30 on October 15th if this motion passes. Back to the table. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion does pass. Our final item, number 7, is consideration of BZA appointment from the City Council. Mr. City Manager?
Council is scheduled to consider making an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. As council is aware, the BZA has had a difficult time finding members, and this is a 7-member board, and we currently have 4, which is a bare minimum for a quorum. The city planner, in reviewing both state statute and our local ordinance, realized that the city council may appoint one of its own members to the board, as long as that member is not the chair. But other than that, there's no restrictions on BZA having a member from council administration. And looking at this, thought that might be a good way to help out a board that's difficult to staff, just due to the fact that with a lot of the work the planner does and the planning commission has done on our zoning ordinance in the past, they don't often meet, although we do believe they'll be meeting in the near future.
Okay, very good. So we need if council so wishes, we need to appoint a council person to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Jeff Goodard to serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals as a city council member.
Support.
What's been made and supported? Discussion.
You're interested in serving?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? Any audience comments on this item? Discussion. I also believe I read somewhere along the line, I don't know if it's our class of city or not, but the city council may act as the zoning board of appeals. Is that true with the city of Richmond also?
It is true, but what we would have to do is formally disband the existing Board of Zoning Appeals.
Mm-hmm.
It's an either-or situation as the state statute lays out. Either the legislative body can serve as BZA, or if you have a separately sitting BZA, only one member of the legislative body can serve.
You know, as we well know, since we went over, our master plan, we've had one one BZA meeting in how many years now? I mean, where before we were meeting every single month.
Yeah, 2005 was when the new zoning ordinance went into place, and since then, I believe we've had 2 items, but one was withdrawn prior to the meeting.
So that's what I'm saying, it's nice to have citizens involved, but, they're not really involved because we have no appeals. So that's why,
Yeah.
I'm not saying right now is the time to make that change.
Sure.
But I'm not sure, I don't have it in front of me when all other 4 people are up. But
Yeah.
if they're up together or close to that, maybe we want to talk to them. There are other boards if they want to serve the community. There are other boards. There are a few openings on if they care to, and allow the city council to be the BZA. That's just a comment. I read it. I believe it was in one of the MML magazines. The legal section there was talking about it a year or so ago.
And if it would so please the City Council, there is also a provision in the state statute for communities over 5,000. You can reduce the minimum required number of board members to 5.
Oh, okay.
But, that's something for the future as well.
Yeah, okay.
We could put some options together for a future roundtable
Yeah,
meeting.
for a future, that would be good. Like, what's the next one, January?
October.
After this one,
Yeah.
next month, January would be the next one.
Maybe we could talk about it then, find out where we're at with the other individuals that are on there right now. And then certainly the 5-member would certainly help
Yeah.
to get a quorum at a meeting if somebody ever.
Right.
I think it's a direct reflection about what a great job that was done our ordinances meet the needs of the people in the city of Richmond.
And it does offer a order of flexibility to developers as well as staff in working with those developers.
Yeah, we didn't have that before.
No.
No, and that's been great. Great. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes. You know, it's kind of nice problem to have, because I remember back in that 2003-04 staff and the elected official trade said, if you have, if you clean up those ordinances, you can work away at those, the BZA, having those appeals. And so it's kind of nice that everything that we were told in training and staff was saying, if you put the time in and have a more flexible plan, and then actually see it come together, and now we have a nice problem to have, which is they don't meet that often, so
they lose interest.
Well, I mean, that we don't need the appeals board so much. So, good job, staff, and that work that was done to see it come together.
Yes, it was a lot of work. Okay. Anything else? In favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Motion does pass. We move on to city manager's comments. Sir?
I just want to thank all the volunteers, including city staff, good old days, council members that helped with the Romeo to Richmond race. It was a very successful event again this year. 520 runners, I think. I'm still getting the final numbers, but I think we had 550 registered and 30 no-shows. So
really?
520 ran. This year they had was the first year for a relay event. One person ran from Romeo to Armada, and then the second leg was Armada to Richmond, and they're hoping that will grow the number of participants. The people that did participate were really excited that was offered. So it was very successful.
So when they said 400, John, was that 400 marathoners? Because John probably was saying there was 400.
Yeah, that would have been 400 and a half, and then the other were
5K. And
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So all went well.
Yeah.
And the school building was used, and a lot of compliments from the runners on that. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m., I believe, is a ribbon cutting for Anytime Fitness down there. I believe I emailed that out to council. And then tomorrow I am speaking at the Rotary Club.
Good. We move on to council comments. Michael?
I just want to say that we had a real good old days weekend. A lot of people in town. It was really great to see. And pretty much things went off without a hitch. So thanks to you, Mr. Mayor, for sharing that undertaking, which is quite big. So.
Takes everybody to put it on. Jeffrey?
I concur with Councilman Mistrovich. I thought it was a very successful year. Thanks to the city and the administration for all their help, and yourself for all the work you go through too. So I thought it was very successful personally. So that's all I have.
Very good. Dennis?
I also agree on all the comments. Just wanted to add a few things. Being in the back of the parade this year, the comments were tremendous. The compliments and all the years, the 50 years of doing this parade, they say there's not a better parade anywhere that they attend. And I didn't hear one negative thing through the whole day. Everybody was happy to be there, and so that's a compliment again to you chairing and being involved with that all these years. So it was great. And I just wanted to add the football game with the new concession stand was a great success. Again, compliments everywhere throughout the community on that, having the bathrooms and the concession stand, and I think that shows the class of the city and community working together with the schools. So I think it's a great positive thing.
Very good. And they won, right? They won big time. Football team?
Oh, this last week, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Outstanding. Jeff?
Yes, I do want to thank all the volunteers for the Romeo Richmond run and all the good old days volunteers. And I always appreciate the vision that people had years ago. It seems like a number of the people who came back after 50 years and talked about it, how it started, the people who had a vision for the celebration of Richmond and where it's grown to. It also reminds me of the Macomb Orchard Trail, and people, this city was one of the leading visionaries on that, and now you see people running through Richmond, saying this is a destination to run to and bike to. So I appreciate our the people before us that had that vision. And now you see it all kind of come together. We were talking about that, how many great things we have in the city because of people before us who had a vision, and people, we just keep going with it. So thank you all of them. Also, I went to the Macomb Chambers. They had a breakfast, politics and business, and a number of reps were there, and a senator, and a lot of local officials. And we're talking, one of the issues is street funds, street funding, what the state's going to do about street funds. As I talked to other elected officials, I think we're probably in pretty good shape. Again, a number of years ago, staff came up with our municipal street fund to avoid having to bond out and borrow money, which is, in turn means more tax dollars get to be spent on the roads and not through financing, and really put us ahead. So as I talked to a number of people, really realized how far ahead and some great things that were done on that. And also advocated, as they start talking about street funds, that this regulation of having a local fund and a major fund, and I talked to these legislators about the fact we have a municipal street fund to deal with the fact of how we can't use our money the best way because you have money stuck in local and major. And actually people started saying, wow, that makes sense. Local government, you guys can be efficient with money, and stop tying our hands so much, and we could be more efficient. We had to create this street fund just to make our money do the best. So kudos to, again, staff years ago who came up with a municipal street fund to maximize our money, and it seems like we're a lot farther ahead than other communities, and hopefully the legislators, when they take up street funding, for example, they may try to free up our ability to spend it more wisely.
Jamie.
Again, an excellent, concurring with everybody else, good old days. 2 notes, just I really saw a lot of families making memories together, and I think that just tickles me to see that a community coming together. You see hard workers and kids and parents all working together. I was blessed by that. And then the residents and out-of-towners coming together as families, making memories together, just was fantastic. And it just went, from our appearance, was so smooth that it was flawless. Also, I even received compliments on how they noticed that we used our police department. And I just want to thank the chief and the sergeant and the dispatch on how nice it was to see all of our officers, and the residents noticed that, wow, we have all of our officers, and it was great to see people and familiar faces they know walking around and protecting them and riding bikes around, and that was just great. Also, on another note, since it's Constitution Week, we put out 30 constitutions, pocket constitutions, and they were like taken within the first couple days at the library, which was fantastic. So we've got residents walking around with constitutions in their pockets, which is great.
Yeah, great. Very good. Jimmy.
I got to compliment the city on what a fantastic job that they did on cleanup after Sunday. I walked through part of the town on Sunday, and you can't blame all the people because the trash cans were full, but it was quite a mess. But on Monday morning, you would never know we had a festival in this town. I mean, they did an outstanding job cleaning it up. And also, congratulations, Good Old Days, for a very nice festival. Awesome parade. I don't know how you stopped the train.
That's true.
I don't know either. I'm not going to ask.
We won't go there?
No.
Okay. But I mean, it was really nice to see the parade come down without half mile or mile gap. You know, it was just fantastic. And then on a lighter note, I'd like to thank all my friends and enemies for putting me in the dunk tank.
Yes.
We did awesome for the burn camp.
Yes.
Great.
Speaking about making memories. Before we get started, we also want to thank the Historical Society. I know we thanked them at the end of the meeting, but just the more I thought about it, what a great place that was to have the good old days city council meeting. It was so much part of our history and the history of our community. Not just the city of Richmond. It was really nice. I hope we can do things like that more often. Maybe we have some other areas in town that we could have our meetings and get on the on our station so people can experience some of the other neat things we have in our community. Anyhow, the good old days. It was an outstanding weekend. The weather was with us for the most part, but the volunteers were outstanding this year. It's the best I've seen in my 30-some years with the Good Old Days Festival. The ability to work with the city staff this year was the best I've ever seen it. The problems were the least amount of problems that I had heard as chairman of the festival. I had one complaint on Monday morning, and by the time I was done with the gentleman, he thought that was probably one of the best bands in the state of Michigan. So, other than that, it was a great weekend, and I think it really showed off what kind of community we are, and that's the whole idea. Also, there was over 30 nonprofit organizations that made money for all of their causes, and sometimes we forget that that's what this was all about, and still is. Jeff, you mentioned about the first time. The Good Old Days Festival has not changed its mission, and that was to promote the city, its people, and its businesses. We still operate that way. We are the organizing committee. We organize all the groups, we organize all the events, so there's no duplication, and that everybody can work together well. We're still operating in that same exact mode, and we make about the same amount of money as a committee. Luckily, we've been able to save over a lot of years, so we're financially sound. But it only takes 4 days of rain to put us back to where we were. But I think with the volunteers that we have and the organizations, we would put it on again in a minute with nothing. There's just the family that's there that works to put this festival together is second to none in the state. It was, as it ended up, the Grand Parade has turned out to be the largest musical marching parade in the state of Michigan. We are going to market that heavily. That Little Richmond does have the largest musical marching parade in the state. We've challenged anybody. I've talked to Candace Miller and told her, you can challenge anybody for me. Let's find out. Maybe we're the biggest in the Midwest. We think we are, including Ontario, because we've gone to over 40 parades this summer, and there was nobody that was even close to the number of marching bands that we had. So it kind of goes along with our state championships at the school and everything else. Richmond does things when they do it right. They do it real well. I've got chairmen of events that are sitting at this table, people that volunteered their time a lot. We have a lot to be proud of in our presentation, and I thank everyone for what they did. And it went on to the Romeo Richmond. When we were up there, John Crum from the county was telling us that he was so happy there were so many people running this year, and he said 400 people. Oh, that's great. Now you're telling me that was probably just the marathon. That had nothing to do with the, so it's bigger than it was last year. It was, probably perfect running weather, but it was certainly not the kind of weather that brings people out. But it definitely, it's another one of those things that's just, you guys do the job right. You're organized. You show the people a good time, and they know that they can trust the people that are putting this on with their personal belongings. Huge, trust that has been built there. So that's great, and I hope it continues. I was assured that it would continue to be the Romeo to Richmond run, as long as the right people are at the helm there. So again, another great thing. We've got stuff coming up for the fall with the Chamber of Commerce Scarecrow thing going on. Big Scarecrow contest. Hopefully they get that information out to everybody so that we can have, what they say, how many polls are they going to be?
There's a total of 54 polls, and so they'll decorate ones if they miss that mark on the scarecrows.
Yeah.
But, yes.
So hopefully we can get enough groups and individuals and families and whatnot to get involved in that. They give us something big going on in the fall. There's going to be a gathering at the Trailhead Park on a certain day.
October 5th.
October 5th?
Saturday, October 5th.
Okay, all right. So that would be something you would want to contact the Chamber of Commerce to find out
Correct. Chamber of Commerce, Jill or Dawn at the Chamber of Commerce, 727-3266.
3266, very good. Yeah, let's all get involved in that too. So that was it. The calendar, today being September 16th. The EDC meeting has been canceled for the 18th and moved to the 26th at 7 p.m. right here at City Hall. TIFA will meet on the 25th at 7 p.m. right here at City Hall. It takes us into October. The Rec Board will have their walkthrough at 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 1st. The homecoming parade, as we approved tonight, will be on the 4th at 5 p.m. And then the next regular scheduled city council meeting is on October 7th. And that is also the last day to register to vote in the election that will be held on November 5th. Is there anything else? Oh, I'm sorry.
You had a flyer.
Yeah, I have a flyer that came in from, I believe it was the EMS.
Yeah, for 2 shots.
If we can find it, Jimmy. There it is. The Richmond Lennox EMS is going to have a vaccine clinic that will be held at the headquarters on 32 Mile Road on Tuesday, September 24th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it says the cost is no charge for those with traditional Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield Medicare Advantage. All others is $25. So that would be, it's a drive-through flu vaccination clinic on September 24th. Is there anything else that we need to add to the calendar tonight? Okay, moving on. Is there any other business of the City Council this evening? Being not, motion to adjourn would be in order.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion been made and supported. There is no discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you for being with us.